This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. The Prime Minister believes Tasmania could be the battery to power the nation. Visiting the state this morning, Malcolm Turnbull announced the federal government will spend $2.5 million on studies looking at doubling Hydro Tasmania's capacity. The expansion plan potentially enough to power 500,000 homes.
A birthday present for the Tasmanian Premier and the nation.
Happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Malcolm Turnbull in Tasmania saying he wants more of the state's renewable energy and he'll help try to increase output.
Potentially, Tasmania could become a battery for Australia.
The Australian Renewable Energy Agency is working with Hydro Tasmania, looking at how to optimise the state's renewables and increase storage capacity. One study is looking at interconnecting several new pumped hydro storage schemes. Another is examining the possibility of redeveloping the 80-year-old Tarraleah Power Station.
And that would increase the output of Tarraleah Power Station by around about 40%. In total, the pumped hydro projects add up to about 2,500 megawatt hours, which would about double the capacity of the hydro system in Tasmania.
What we are talking about today sets up Hydro Tasmania and indeed our state for the next 100 years.
The government believes increasing capacity could provide more security if there was another energy crisis. If all projects are found to be feasible, the total cost will be in excess of $3 billion.
This is a great opportunity, we believe, a second generation for Hydro Tasmania. We've talked about Snowy Hydro 2.0. This could be Tassie Hydro 2.0.
But with the plans still only in the feasibility stage, the reality is a long way off.
Because what people often say when we talk about things like this is to say, well, what are you going to have done next month? Well, the answer is you can't build a power station in a month.
What we want to see from this government is less feasibility studies and more action when it comes to getting more renewable energy here in Tasmania.
It's understood boosting Tasmania's renewable energy output could help the case for a second Basslink interconnector, a proposal that's currently still just a pipe dream. Monika Dadson at Southern Cross News.
Launceston's multi-million-dollar city deal is officially good to go, except for one crucial element overshadowing today's signing. It appears no one knows what is the right sewerage system required for the Tamar River. Now, a $2 million task force will be established to work it out.
Signing the start of the city deal story.
With a glorious history but an exciting future,
which will see roughly $300 million pumped into Launceston over the next 5 years.
Make this wonderful city even better.
The centrepiece of the plan, relocating the University of Tasmania to Inveresk. Although still in its planning stage, the end result is expected to draw 10,000 more students by 2030. In addition, public areas are getting a facelift and a new Army Cadet facility is to be built in the northern suburbs.
So I've had a heart to see what we could do in our northern suburbs. There are projects which will come out of this city deal which are going to be very exciting.
But the sticking point is more Tamar talk. At least $2 million will be spent on a task force to choose between multiple options for the right sewerage plan.
What is the right solution? And importantly, how to fund that, and the task force will determine that.
We want to get stuff done as quickly as possible. In fact, we want to get stuff done in shorter than 5 years where we can.
A quick fix now a pipe dream, according to the opposition, and potentially dangerous if the UTAS relocation swells student numbers.
So without those improvements, there is absolutely no value in increasing the city's population.
And it's a pittance when it is compared to what's actually going to be needed to fix the water and sewage problem in Launceston.
The task force has until December to make its decision. Until then, most of the other City Deal projects now have the green light. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Well, concerns tonight older Tasmanian workers may not be given a fair go, with calls for the government to reconsider the Workers' Rehabilitation and Compensation Act. If you're over the age of 64 and become injured, you must face a tribunal to return to work.
We feel that a fair way of doing that is actually to put if someone has an injury, to put a 3-year limit on the time that they can have for income replacement in that situation.
You've got to retain your older workforce, you've got to keep them active and involved. Don't put any barriers there.
The Act is currently before the Tasmanian Parliament. A search party has saved a bushwalker missing in a cold and remote location on the state's northeast overnight. The team was called to the Blue Tier forest, spending hours on the ground before finding the 30-year-old man.
So you're really just covering off as much of that area as you can and doing a lot of yelling, hence a bit hoarse in the voice.
The missing bushwalker had gone out without a headlight and warm clothing. Emergency services say it's a warning to others to pack the necessary supplies. A mum has been specially recognised today, awarded the Tasmanian Barnardos Mother of the Year. She was nominated by the child she raised as her own following a suicide in the family and will represent the state in Sydney at the National Awards in May.
Carol Edmonds was just 23 and newly married when her husband's sister Kelly lost her mum to suicide. The couple raised the 8-year-old as their own.
Even though they had two beautiful boys of their own, they've never made me feel any different.
I don't feel that I've done anything different to every other mother around, but obviously it was a special time for Kelly for what I've done to help her out, and I'll do it all over again.
Kelly has just had a baby boy of her own, and during the birth, Carol was there to hold her hand.
She was in the delivery suite with me, and most importantly, she's never let me forget my mum. Even when I was giving birth, she whispered in my ear that mum was there with us, so it's really special.
The new grandma has some advice for new mums.
Let him make his own choices in life, but guide him along the way like we have. Unfortunately, as mums, we're not given a manual to say, here you go, this is what you do. But you look, I suppose, to your own mum for that guidance.
Carol says she's looking forward to spending time with Kelly at the National Awards in Sydney in May.
Kelly living in Melbourne, I don't get to see lots these days.
There's not enough love in the world to really sum it up into one word.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
The majority of Tasmanian drivers are being praised for staying safe over the Easter long weekend. No fatal crashes occurred during the week-long Operation Crossroads, although there were 2 serious incidents. But it's not all good news. Drug driving incidents nearly doubled on last year, while drink driving increased by 35%. Tasmania Police note more random breath tests were conducted compared with last year's operation. An emotional time for Vietnam veterans today, with an armoured personnel carrier used in the war arriving at its new home, the South Arm RSL. The 10-tonne vehicle is another piece of war history for the Memorial Park and comes just in time for Anzac Day.
Today's arrival prompting vivid and emotional memories for these Vietnam vets. This armoured personnel carrier was used during the Vietnam War to transport infantry soldiers.
It is a very emotional day for them when they see pieces of this equipment, because a lot of us have travelled inside them. We've spent time with them, with our mates, and they've backed us up with fire support when we've been in contact with the enemy.
You'd be sitting in a very confined space with a lot of gear, 10 to 12 blokes, and a very rough ride. I think to most Vietnam veterans, it's synonymous with Vietnam and APC. It was a real friend that you could have.
It's just one of 3 in Australia, and the RSL went through a tender process to bring it to Tasmania. A crane was needed to lift the 10-tonne vehicle safely to its new home.
Put it down gently and another job done.
The RSL's president, Terry Rowe, says he's proud to have it on home turf and says it will educate the younger generations for years to come.
To leave a fitting memorial to the young people of this particular peninsula, of what their grandfathers, their fathers, brothers and sisters did in the military, and particularly for our local school here as well.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
A new mental health campaign is being launched in response to trauma suffered by the state's train drivers. Tasrail says its drivers are regularly shaken by close calls, including this incident at Perth, where 2 people played chicken on the railroad. Another recent incident saw a motorist speed across a level crossing at Deloraine. The new campaign asks rail workers to open up about disturbing experiences.
In the extreme case, there'll be employees that have had more serious incidents in the past, and all those memories come flooding back, and we've certainly lost a number of drivers off the job through trauma-related incidents.
The company says it publicises support services to its employees. The RACT is celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Tasmanian Portraiture Prize. Local artist Hilton Owen was the inaugural winner of the award a decade ago. He said it helped kickstart his artistic career.
And that's really important in art, to sort of be able to get people to see what you're doing, whether you can do it through self-promotion but obviously an award is a much easier way of doing that.
The 2017 edition of the prize also launched today. It's open to all aspiring artists under 30. The winner receives $5,000 and a trip to the Archibald Prize exhibition in Sydney. Now a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The share market has snapped a 3-session losing streak driven by strength among the banks, Telstra and property developers. The ASX 200 index has risen by 17.4 points. Just a short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 75.07 US cents and 106.6 New Zealand cents.
The State League first tonight, and Devonport playing coach Mitch Thorpe is all set to take the field this week against Clarence, just 3 weeks after suffering 2 fractured ribs. Launceston will travel to Lauderdale, the Bombers hoping to avoid going 0-3 for the first time in their State League history.
A loss to arch-enemy Clarence means Lauderdale is winless this season. The Bombers looking on the bright side though.
It was disappointing, but yeah, it certainly took a lot out of it.
This week's clash with Launceston is as must-win as it gets. Both sides are coming off convincing losses to arch-rivals, and if the Bombers are to get the points, they'll need to stop Sonny Whiting, who's bagged 14 goals so far this season.
Sonny's definitely one you have to watch. He's their primary goal kicker and a dangerous forward, so we'll look to try and shut him down as best we can.
Whiting with added responsibility thanks to Nathan O'Donoghue's absence. The veteran tall won't play this week.
2.5 to 3 hours in the car, then getting out and going and playing is probably not the smartest call, so I reckon we'll probably hold one more week on him.
Clarence are 2-0 and flying. The form of winger Jake Cox a big factor.
I think a couple of years ago he might have had a good 3 weeks and then went missing on the 4th week, whereas I think now, he's guaranteed to have 30 possessions, or if he plays forward, he's going to kick you a bag.
They'll travel for the first time this season when they hit the road for Devonport. In a boost, Mitch Thorpe will play for the Pies, but Jackson O'Brien is confirmed out for the Roos.
Look, he's pulled up really, really well, but he won't play this week. Probably hoping for next week. At this stage, it looks to be about 50-50 for next week.
Better news for Hobart City Demons, who will regain skipper Hugh Williams from a hamstring. They'll take on Burnie in the close confines of Queenborough Oval. Accuracy on goal a factor after booting 8-15 in a 4-point loss to Tigers last week.
We spent about half an hour on Tuesday night, and we'll do a bit more tonight. But bad kicking is bad football.
Tasmania's under-18 boys have scored a 5-2 victory over ACT at the National Championships in Hobart today. ACT were 2-1 up, but Tasmania fought back through goals to Ben East, Sam McCulloch and Harvey Bessel. It moves them to the top of their pool. They'll meet Victoria tomorrow. Meanwhile, Tassie duo Eddie Ockenden and Jeremy Edwards have been selected in the Kookaburras squad for the Aslan Shah Cup in Malaysia later this month.
Good evening. A cloudy but dry day across the state today. Hobart reached a top of 23 degrees. It was 25 in Launceston and 20 in both Burnie and Devonport. Around the rest of the state, it was 26 at Flinders Island, 23 at St Helens, 21 at Maria Island and 19 degrees at Grove and Bushy Park. The satellite images show an extensive area of cloud associated with an upper trough stretching from Western Australia to southwest Queensland and western New South Wales. Isolated thunderstorms are present in the cloud near the South Australian coast. Looking closer at the state, sea fog patches over Bass Strait and a middle-level cloud band mostly contracting to the southeast and far northwest, with some scattered cloud elsewhere. To tomorrow now, the high pressure to the east of Tasmania is remaining stationary and directing a northerly flow over the state. The trough is moving incrementally closer to Tasmania as a low develops over southwestern Victoria. Northwesterly winds reaching 20 knots about the east and more easterly around the north, becoming variable in the west and south throughout the day. Swells to 3 metres in the west and south. Sunny in Hobart tomorrow, a top of 24. The same for Huonville, Campania 25. Launceston, early fog, warming up to 24 degrees. 21 with a possible late shower for Devonport and Georgetown. Showers for Burnie and Wynyard, both looking at a top of 21 degrees. Partly cloudy for Strawn, 22. St Helens, a possible light morning shower, 21 degrees. Swansea, 24. Port Arthur, 22. Taking a look at Saturday, fine apart from light showers in the north through the morning and afternoon. Showers developing in the south later in the day. Sunday, morning drizzle in central and southern parts. Fine elsewhere until possible showers develop in the north in the afternoon. And Monday, showers in the north extending statewide in the day. Here's a look around the country tomorrow. A shower or two for Brisbane, 26. Sydney, a possible late shower, 24. And rain at times for Melbourne, 19. And right now in Hobart, it's 19 degrees, mostly clear. Launceston, 17 and clear. Devonport, 16 with some fog. Thanks, Jo.
Lovely. Thanks so much for that, Britt. That's all from the news team. Have a great evening. We'll see you a bit later with updates. Bye-bye.